everyone, what's up? My name is Joss and welcome back to my channel, Squibbles Reads. Today I'm going to be going through my September wrap-up, so I'll let you know about all of the books that I finished in September and also about a couple of books that I read when I was taking a break from BookTube and just never got around to telling you guys about, both books of which I really enjoyed. If you guys missed my last video, I did just launch the start of my new book club called Storytime with Squibbles, which I am so excited about. I also let you guys know about my October TBR in that video, so if you guys are interested, I will leave the details in the card up above there, so you can just click on the link. Basically, I told you guys some more details about the new book club as well as how you can get involved across all platforms and the book that I chose to start off in the month of October. Getting into my September wrap-up, I did finish 12 books in September as well as a couple books that, again, I wanted to let you guys know about that I finished before. September was a really freaking strange reading month for me. I read my second book this year that I gave 5 stars to, which I am really stoked about, and then I read 2 books that I DNF'd, and then I read 2 books that I rated 2 stars. So overall, not the best reading month, but still really happy that I did find that 5-star book. So the first book that I read / listened to in the month of September was China Rich Girlfriend, which is the second book in the Crazy Rich Asian series by Kevin Kwan. If you guys have been with me for at least a couple months, you have definitely heard me talk about this book. Basically, it is kind of just a fun contemporary. The first book in the series talks about a girl named Rachel Chu. She finds out that her boyfriend Nicholas Young is one of the most eligible bachelors and also one of the richest people in the country of Singapore. They go back to Singapore and meet his mom and his family and all of the other upper echelon of the people in Singapore and China and Hong Kong. Book 2, again, follows their story as well as some other side characters that we didn't get to know particularly well in Book 1. Overall, I won't give anything away about the plot of Book 2, but I did enjoy Book 1 a little bit more. Book 2 was just a little bit all over the place, but I did still really enjoy spending time with some of my favorite book characters. And the book that I rated 5 stars in the month of September is a September new release. This should come as no surprise to you guys. This is Little Fires Everywhere by Celeste Ng. If you guys missed it, I did do a full review video of this book, which I will also leave up in the card there. But basically, this is a book that takes place in the suburbs of Shaker Heights, and we follow a few different families and groups of people. So the first one is a family with a mom, a dad, and 4 kids, like middle school, high school aged, and then they are renting a place to a mom who is kind of an artist. She works paycheck to paycheck and she works some odd jobs so she can spend some more time doing her creative things. And that mom has a daughter who is high school age and goes to school with some of the other kids from the family of 4. And then finally, there is another family, a husband and a wife in the neighborhood that are good friends with the family of 4, and they are in a custody battle for the adoption of their daughter, and she is a Chinese American baby. Like you can probably tell, there are a lot of themes of family and motherhood and fatherhood and how people judge people who work paycheck to paycheck and decide to use their creative pursuits for earning money. Again, I gave it 5 stars. If you want to hear way more of my thoughts and more in depth, the rest of them are in that full review video. Also, I totally forgot to mention that I am seeing Celeste Ng on her book tour later this week. This will be my first time that I've met her or heard her speak, and I am so super excited for that. So the next book that I finished is Copycat by Alex Lake, and this is about a woman named Sarah. She's a doctor, she has a family with a small kid, and she's married to her husband, and she has discovered one day after running into an old friend that she actually has a profile on Facebook, which is a duplicate of her own profile. But it is especially creepy because there are photos on that duplicate profile that are of her and of her family and following her to different events and things that she goes to. And these are pictures that Sarah has no recollection of being in or taking herself, which is especially creepy. So throughout the book, we try and find out the mystery of how this fake profile came to be, who is running this fake profile, and what it has to do with Sarah. Overall, I don't have too much to say about this other than it was really creepy, but I wasn't particularly impressed. The writing was very plain, very simple. It didn't really add to the overall story. I also found that there were parts that were definitely you have to suspend your disbelief in order to read this book. There were some character inconsistencies with the way that Sarah's husband was set up and also the way that he acted and changed the things that he did throughout the story. And basically the last 35 to 40%, you figure out who the person is behind the profile about like 60 to 65% through the book. So the last 35 to 40% could have really been condensed to maybe like 5 to 10% at most. So overall, it didn't really impress me. This is one of the books that I gave 2 stars to. The next book that I'm going to talk about is a very bizarre, strange little book that I ended up really enjoying. This is called Fever Dream by Samantha Schweblin. She is actually an author from Buenos Aires and now lives in Berlin, and this book was translated from Spanish by Megan McDowell. This is a very short little book. The font is already like, the margins are huge, so I blew through this book in one night. I can't tell you too much about this other than it's really freaking weird, and it's about a woman named Amanda who is lying in a hospital bed, and she is having a conversation with a little boy named David who is sitting beside her hospital bed. So the whole book is written without quotation marks, but it's basically like a dialogue between Amanda and David, and a good portion of maybe like the first 60 to 70% of the book is mostly Amanda doing a ton of narration about something that happened or could have happened in the past you don't really know. Then about like the last 30 to 40%, David starts talking a lot more. He starts to fill in some of the holes. It gets even weirder. There are horses and worms and people's spirits and souls and daughters and sons and moms. Like, it's really weird. I'm not quite sure that I understood 100% of the symbolism and the metaphors, but it was just like a really trippy ride that I really enjoyed. I gave it 4 stars. The only reason why I didn't give it 5 stars is because, again, like, I don't really know if I got the point of it. I don't know if I got the point that the author was trying to make, but I really enjoyed myself while I was reading this. So yeah, 4 stars, and if you want something a little bizarro, here you go. So the next book that I finished in the month of September is one of the books that I mentioned that I really wanted to get to before the end of the year in my mid-year book freakout tag video. This was definitely highly anticipated, but unfortunately it really let me down. This is the second book in September that I gave 2 stars, and this book is See What I Have Done by Sarah Schmidt. This is about the murders of Andrew and Abby Borden. If you've heard of the Lizzie Borden murders, Lizzie Borden was highly suspected of their murders at that time. She finds their bodies like in a pool of blood. She thinks it's an axe murder. The police get involved, and this is a book that is written in 4 different perspectives. So from Lizzie Borden, Emma Borden, and then we have Bridget, who is basically their housekeeper, and then we have kind of a mysterious dude named Benjamin. I don't know if I can tell you guys exactly what his role is, so I'm just gonna leave it at that. But it alternates between their 4 perspectives, and then before each chapter we get kind of like a time, like a date and a year. The fact that there were like times and dates and years didn't really help me place this story like in chronological order or anything like that. I couldn't really tell if it was like going forwards, if it was going backwards, if there were flashbacks. I found the use of those dates and times really ineffective. Also, besides Lizzie's voice, which I thought was pretty distinct, it used different like sound effects, it used repetitions of words, which I did enjoy a lot. The other 3 perspectives, I found there wasn't really a large difference in the voice and the tone that they were using. Apart from that, there was something that made it even less enjoyable in the medium that I consumed it in. So I switched between the audiobook on my commute and also this physical copy of the book. If you guys know, my commute to work one way is between like 60 to 80 minutes, so I have a long time to like bust out audiobooks on my commute. So I downloaded this audiobook, but little did I know, throughout the book, there is a pot of rotting meat on the stove. And this pot of rotting meat is through the whole book, and the characters in this story go and they lift the lid of the pot of rotting meat, and it obviously smells really bad. Some of them even try repeatedly to eat the rotting meat, knowing that every time they go back, it will have rotted even further. So what happens when people do that? They vomit. And people were puking through the whole book. There was a good period of time where you couldn't go 3 pages without the description of someone's puke. Like, it was actually just disgusting. And I'm a person that gets car sick really easily, and on an 80-minute commute, listening to people puke over and over again, that's just really unpleasant. So if you are sensitive to that, don't read this. Apart from that, the actual like building of suspense I didn't think was particularly great. I wasn't like on the edge of my seat the whole way through. I was kind of just waiting for someone to throw up. So yeah, 2 stars for this one. So now we're gonna get into the first book that I DNF'd in September, and this is really sad because a lot of people highly recommended this one to me, but I'm just not about it. So this is How to Love by Katie Cotugno, and it is told in a before and after from the same girl's perspective, and her name is Rena. So there's a guy named named Sawyer, and he gets Rena pregnant, and then he runs off. So that comes at the end of the before. And then we jump to after, where Rena has a young daughter named Hannah, and then Sawyer comes back into her life, and she has to try and kind of reconcile whether she wants to forgive him or whether she wants to let it go, if she's still angry, and all of that stuff. So I finished about 15 to 20% of this book. It was okay. It wasn't anything super impressive. I wasn't like really intrigued to finish the rest of it. However, there was this one passage where in the before part, Sawyer was making out with one of Rena's friends, and she was particularly disgruntled by it. And Rena was in the car with her friend Shelby, and Shelby made a joke about terrorists. Then she proceeded to say, "Oh, I'm so sorry. Are you the type of person that's really sensitive to jokes about terrorists?" And I was like, "Shelby, girl, what are you even doing?" And then the next sentence was basically Rena saying, "No, ha ha ha, I'm not sensitive, but I am sensitive to other things." And then the subtext of that was like seeing the guy that I really like making out with my friend. It was all just really done in bad taste. It was totally unnecessary. There was also a point made on Twitter where someone was talking to me and they were like, well, it would have been okay if like Shelby was like made out to be a villainous character, or we saw some like repercussions from that, but we didn't. It was just like an offhand remark to amplify the fact that Rena was sensitive to Sawyer making out with her friends. So really just not great. I decided to put it down after that because the rest of the story wasn't really intriguing me anyways. There are other books that I could very gladly read. So yeah, the end of that one. The next book that I finished in September is a book that I really enjoyed. This is the Mattie Diaries by Mattie Ziegler. If you guys know her, she is from the TV show Dance Moms, and I'm total Dance Moms trash. I love it. I watch it every week. But this is basically like her memoir of how she came to be where she is now. I really enjoyed this book. I don't think that I am the targeted audience for who she wrote this book for, but again, I really enjoyed it. I'm Dance Mom's trash. I liked learning more about her story. I especially liked the parts where she talks about how she met Sia and her relationship with Sia and how she came to be in her music videos. I thought that was really cool. I got to know more about her and her relationship with her sister Mackenzie. Really cute, really fun. Next book I finished is a collection of poetry called The Chaos of Longing by K.Y. Robinson. K.Y. Robinson is a poet who's from Texas. She is African American. She talks about her experience with trauma and mental health challenges and things like that. So this is a collection of poetry that she wrote, and it is divided into 4 different sections. The first one is called Inception, and then we have Longing, then Chaos, and then Epiphany. So a lot of these poems do deal with unrequited love, and she talks about almost being obsessed with this person and being in love, and the collusion of bodies and how she views her body and mental health and all those different themes that I really enjoy. I did enjoy this collection quite a bit. I am not the greatest critic of poetry. Like, I just have no idea how to do it. Poetry, I think, is really personal to the person who is writing it, and I don't even know how to begin to critique or talk about it. But the one thing that I noticed with this collection is that even though I really enjoyed it, there were some lines that were definitely really cheesy and used before, but there were only a few of those, and other than that, I thought that the messages were really strong. I thought that the words that she used and where each line broke was also really effective. I don't even know to rate this, so I'm not going to. I also, like I was saying, DNF'd another book, and this book is called The Fox and the Hound by R.S. Gray. So when I picked up this book, I wanted just a really fun, contemporary romance. It's a little bit steamy. This is about a girl who has just adopted a new puppy, but this new puppy is very large and growing at a really quick rate. So she decides to take this puppy to the vet, and on the way to the vet, she kind of loses control of the puppy for a little bit, and the puppy like pounces on someone and gets their suit all dirty, and of course it's a really, really hot guy. And that guy ends up being the veterinarian that she is going to. So that just sounds super cute, right? Like, I was so excited for this book. But then, in the middle of reading it, there were definitely some comments that I was not very plussed by. I don't even know in what context this was used, but it was definitely in a serious context, and the line was, "Taming wild mustangs with patience and masculinity." Then, several pages later, there was a scene where this vet guy makes a joke about assault, and I was like, cool, she's gonna put him in his place. No, it started a really steamy makeout scene, and at that point in time, I was like, jokes about assault really should not lead into a steamy makeout scene, so I put it down. So that brings us to 8 total books that I've reviewed that I finished in the month of September. There are 4 books that I finished, but I am saving those for Thursday's video because on Thursday I am doing another Are These Books Worth the Hype video. One of these books I really wanted to like, but I was sadly disappointed by. Another one I thought was super cute, another one I really enjoyed, and the other one I didn't expect to like, but I ended up really loving. So again, that video is coming on Thursday. And now I'm gonna let you know about 2 books that I read before the month of September when I was taking a break from YouTube that I really enjoyed and just haven't talked about on my channel yet. So the first of those books that I really enjoyed that I actually hauled in my book outlet haul video, this book is called The Book of Unknown Americans by Cristina Enriquez. So we meet one of our protagonists. Her name is Maribel. She and her family have just immigrated to the States from Mexico, and she is 15 years old, and she is kind of struggling to fit in at school and in her neighborhood as well as her family. It's really interesting because there is some talk in this book about how people who have just immigrated here, they have to take ESL classes if their English is not where the school system wants it to be, and also the different type of mental health challenges that people can experience in the school system being an immigrant, not knowing a ton of English. And then one day Maribel meets a boy named Mayor, and Mayor is also Latin American, and they kind of hit it off and they deal with a lot of things together. I really enjoyed their relationship. I thought that it really warmed my heart. It also talks about, again, things like immigration, things like how people are treated that don't necessarily speak fluent English, what it feels like to not fit in, definitely a lot of themes like that. I really enjoyed this book. I think at the time I gave it 4 stars, but I still think about it to this day, so I will bump up that rating a little bit. The second book that I finished when I was taking a break that I really enjoyed, this is a book that I gave 5 stars. I loved it so much. People were really buzzing about it back in the spring. This is The Unseen World by Liz Moore, which is really kind of a chunker. So this is about a girl named Ada, and we kind of watch her grow up with her single dad. And her single dad is kind of painted to be really eccentric, not super eccentric, but a little bit. And he works in a lab, and Ada goes to the lab with him and she learns about all this stuff. She's super smart. She knows a ton about computers and everything that they work on in the lab. One day there starts to be this rumor that David, Ada's dad, is not exactly who he says he is. So she goes on kind of like this journey to try and figure out, using all of her knowledge, who he really is. At the same time, David starts to experience some mental health challenges, some memory issues, and all that type of stuff. He starts speaking and saying things that are not necessarily quite on point, so that is also another part of the mystery. But it's not really quite a mystery. There are some elements that, like, they keep until the end that they reveal. However, it's a lot about Ada's relationship with her dad. It's about being a single father, which I think is a theme that we don't really see a lot in books, and I teared up at several points in time during this. There's also just something about this little girl learning about computers and going and digging into this person's past and learning about history and using the library. There's one point in time where she goes and she like consults with someone at the library. It's just really cool and talks about things that I don't see a ton in books, and I think that it was all done really well. Again, I gave this 5 stars. I would highly recommend it. Okay, so very quickly I'll let you guys know the 3 books that I'm working on right now, and I wanted to finish before October, but I didn't quite get done. So the first book is the book that I'm listening to on audiobook, again, on my really long commute. This is called You Bring the Distant Near by Mattie Perkins. This was one of my highly anticipated fall releases of 2017. So this is a novel about 4 different Indian and Indian American women, and we learn from each of their perspectives everything that they're going through. Apart from that, I'm not very far through it, so I don't know a ton more than that, but I'm really enjoying it. I'm enjoying the audiobook, so I'm going to keep going with that one. I am also in the middle of a book that I've told you guys that I've wanted to read so many times, but just have never read. This is The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet by Becky Chambers. I don't know a ton about this book. It's sci-fi. I have heard that it's not very plot heavy, and it focuses a lot on the character development and every single character's identity along this journey, so I am sure that I will really enjoy it. I actually just found the second book in the series at my used bookstore, and I got it for free because I had store credit. I was super stoked about that, although the covers don't match, but anyways, I'm working on this one. Finally, this is a real big one. This is a graphic novel called My Favorite Thing is Monsters by Emil Ferris. This is a book that my really good friend Emily from Possibly Lorette, she read this book and she enjoyed it so much. This is a really large graphic novel. It's about a little girl named Karen, and she is drawn as kind of a monster in this book. She's trying to solve the mystery of her next door neighbor's murder, but actually it is just so much more than that. She draws a lot of the people that she knows as monsters, and there is a reason behind that, but I won't tell you that right now. I'm about maybe like a quarter to a third of the way through. I'm really enjoying it. I know that Emily really enjoyed it, and she like highly recommended this one to me, so I will let you guys know my thoughts after I finish it. So that is it for this video. Not a fantastic reading month in September for me, but I have some really good prospects in October waiting for me. Let me know what your guys' favorite book was that you read in the month of September. If you guys would like to join my book club, again, I'll leave the link down below and up there in the card. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you in my next video. Bye.